The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, everybody, and welcome to episode 95 of the 9 Years podcast. It is Thursday, the 17th of August, 2017, and I am Nick Draper. Joined this week not by Crawley's number 1 Ray Wilkins tribute act Stuart Deakins, but Eastbourne's number 2 James Corden tribute act, my brother, Mr. Christopher Draper.
Oh, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to anyone listening in whenever time you did it.
I hadn't actually asked you to speak. I've still got a lot of this script to read, but thank you anyway. We shall explain why Chris is here instead of Stu shortly. But before we get into that, I shall let you know what's coming up in this week's show, in which we will be remembering our first ever competitive game as AFC Wimbledon, the 2-1 win at Sandhurst Town in the Combined Counties League. As today, or at least the day this podcast is scheduled to be released, but probably isn't for a variety of reasons, is the 15-year anniversary of our first visit to the symbolically titled Bottom Meadow. We'll also play Abdo Are You, pick our heroes and villains from last week, look ahead to this weekend's League One action, and of course review the horrendous defeat to Shrewsbury on Saturday. But before all of that, what the hell is actually going on this week? Some of you might even be listening to this on Wednesday, as I've scrambled to find some way of uploading the show, as currently Chris and I are on a family holiday in the 10th circle of no Wi-Fi or mobile phone network hell. Chris, where exactly are we?
We are in Luxborough in the Exmoor Forest.
So, the middle of nowhere, basically?
Nowhere. If nowhere was a place, this would be right next to it, and probably in the middle of it.
Very nice cottage we have here, though, with beautiful views in the back garden.
Beautiful views of absolutely nothing, and sheep.
Fields and sheep. What more do you want?
Fields and sheep.
Wasn't that a song by somebody once? But
quite possibly. It should be. We should release it.
We should release
These fine gentlemen, if you're listening, chaps, that's your next song title there.
Along with the parody version of Shout Out to My Ex, which we are planning.
Yeah, shout out to my eggs.
I don't know. Anyway, the plan was for Stu and I... This is going great. This is going to be an absolute nightmare of a show. The plan was for Stu and I to record it as usual, but logistics this week just became impossible, so I'm afraid you're all stuck with us for the entire hour this week.
I am pleased to be everybody's second prize.
Okay, on to the Shrewsbury game then, if we have to. Main talking points of the, as I said earlier, the horrendous 1-0 defeat. We have now gone 752 minutes of league football and scored just once. So all of this talk, I should say, of a target man, are we actually going to get one? Or have we already got one, but because of our lack of any sort of interaction with the outside world, we have no knowledge of this?
We haven't got one. We do need one. I think half the problem with Shrewsbury was we played like we thought Tom Elliott was still here. We need someone tall up to receive George Long's balls, which sounds terrible. We need someone up there to get his balls down and play forward and get an attack on goal. Basically what was happening against Shrewsbury, for those of you who were there will already know. For those who weren't, we were lumping his balls up long. They were being knocked to the floor. And then Shrewsbury got hold of the ball and passed it around for 20 minutes. Brilliant passing, by the way. We do Shrewsbury a disservice by saying how bad the game was. Oh, that's the bit you pick up on. It is a disservice to Shrewsbury to say that it was a terrible game because they actually played very well.
I didn't say, in fairness, it was a terrible game. I said the defeat was terrible.
It was horrendous.
Yes, it was horrendous. Yes.
But it was one of those where I think Shrewsbury did a job on us. We had one attack after the first minute, and it was a good attack, don't get me wrong. Bartram doing well. Getting the ball in, and it was a shot on, and then they scored, and then there was nothing.
Nothing happened.
96 minutes of nothing, 86 minutes of nothing, probably 96 after all things considered.
Felt like it.
And half the problem was we didn't have someone who could hold the ball up just over the halfway line to let our attacking players get forward. It's a nice idea, the old long ball tactic, but not great if you don't have this target man, which is what we do need.
But the problem was, I thought, and we mentioned this on Facebook Live, was that we want to play our football through our midfield, and Shrewsbury just didn't allow us to do that. They just pressed us, they outnumbered us in midfield, stopped Dean Parrott getting any time or space on the ball, if anything was going to happen, it was going to go through him, and that forced us then into playing it long because we'd often knock the ball back to George Long, as you say. You're obsessed by his long balls. And Paul Robinson, and they're just not the sort of players that are going to bring the ball out. Deji tried to bring it forward at times, it just didn't work because their midfield just swamped us. And yes, you're right, when we resort to knocking it long, we don't have the players for that. However, that being said, Lyle Taylor came on at half-time. He might have come up as well. And he actually did a fairly decent job of doing that because he was actually somebody that could, with his back to goal, at least get a touch on the ball, link it, and get us pushing up higher up the pitch.
Yeah, I did notice when Lyle, he was playing a lot forward right, in memory serves. So he was still doing, again, what he was doing last year, which was fabulous. But what we needed him to do in that situation, being that sort of player, was to go into the middle. So we made the right substitution, possibly the wrong position, in my opinion.
But the problem is we've got 3 strikers that we start the game with, McDonald, Bartram and Appiah. Appiah just doesn't look like he's ready just yet, Nat Sharp at all. But you've got players there, none of which we got in any positions on the pitch where we get them in their best, or at their best. Bartram, you want running at defenders, never got the opportunity to do that. Cody McDonald, as I've said on Facebook Live and I've said many times before, I feel so sorry for him at the moment because he's working his proverbials off. But it's not his game. He needs to be in the 6-yard box poaching. That's what he's in there for. Now, has Neil Ardley made a mistake then in signing Cody McDonald to play in a front 3 the way he wants us to, knowing that it's not really going to get Cody in the positions he should be?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we played Watford and when we played Burton, did Cody play the front 2?
I have no idea. It was pre-season. I don't care.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry.
No,
okay.
We'd have played 4-3. We played 4-3-3.
We did play 4-3-3. Okay, in that case, I got that wrong. But yeah, he does look like the sort of player that would be the Connolly to someone's Shipley, if that makes sense, going back in time. He does look more of that sort of player.
Yeah.
Which is great, but we need the Shipley, not Neil Shipley. He's put on far too much weight and he's very old. So I'm not asking you to get Neil Shipley.
Just going to put that on record. No, Neil, do not sign Neil Shipley.
He had a terrible song as well, but that's another story.
I loved that song.
No, it's rubbish. And he had a swear. It had a swear in it. Very naughty.
Oh yes, because you've never sworn in your life, have you?
Not once.
So
and I'm not going to now.
We're going around the houses a bit, as I expect we will do a lot on this week's show. I do apologise in advance. But then, so we talked then about the balance of the front 3. We also have this midfield problem, the midfield balance of the 3. It links again to the formation. Yes, we've got these injuries. Yes, we've got players that would automatically come straight back into that team. 4-3-3, though, is not the formation for this group of players, is it? I don't think it is.
It's not working.
It's not working.
I think the sort of 45 minutes it did work against Scunthorpe was great. When it really mattered.
Just for the listeners there, Chris made a nice OK sign with his hands towards the microphone, as if you could see him doing that.
And now you can't see what I'm doing to my brother.
But you can probably guess.
Yeah. Actually, that sounds gross. Can we just forget I said anything?
Yeah, leave that. Yeah, we're not going to talk about your fingers now.
Absolutely not. Oh, Lord almighty. So anyway, getting back to the game.
Falling off a cliff already.
45 minutes was played... Actually, against Brentford, I thought we were actually very good. I thought that was a good game.
We were second best, though.
Obviously, but it's still there was something about it.
Yes,
I got far more excited. Don't make any jokes about Brentford than I did watching Wimbledon against Shrewsbury. And I don't know. There's arguments for did we play too long on Tuesday night? I know we didn't have a choice in it, but did we play too long on Tuesday night?
Do you mean Saturday? Sorry.
No, Tuesday night for the Brentford.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we play too long then, and then played again Saturday too soon? Did that have an effect?
I see what you're saying.
But you can't really. I don't know whether you can bring that as part of an argument because they're professional footballers. They've had pre-season to get ready for all this.
But that is Neil's point. And I think it comes with is it periodisation, he calls it, in terms of our fitness levels, where you go in cycles. So you don't start the season at your peak fitness. You build up to a peak and then you slow down and so on and so on. And then the first week of the season is not the time to be playing, what would it be, 300 minutes of football in the space of 7 days.
But then what do we get ourselves up for at the beginning of the season? Just to have a game... Well, we'll just relax for a week. Another game, we'll relax for a week. And that's not what if they are paid professionals to get in there and play football and they have had that amount of time to build themselves up to the season, it doesn't matter how much football you play. We didn't used to say this before we came to the professional league, so to speak. It didn't matter. We were playing stupid cup games every other day and people with far less fitness levels were getting out. I noticed the intensity is different. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that Cobb Rovers or whatever it was we used to play.
Oh yeah, Cobb Rovers.
I don't know.
Yeah,
well, Stu makes names up. I'm replacing him.
Very true.
We play those sort of teams, and I'm not suggesting the intensity is the same, but at the same time, these guys were far less level of fitness, and so the other team. So when you put it on a level, they were playing Monday, Tuesday, sometimes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, we were, and some circumstances we were, yeah, definitely. But I still think there's a point there for what Neil's saying is, or maybe Neil's point, maybe there is an element of, because of the injuries, the squad is quite thin, so he was forced into giving players minutes that he wouldn't otherwise have wanted to do. Certainly Anthony Hartigan, he only played the 120 minutes against Brentford, no league minutes. You don't want to give him 120 minutes, though, against a championship opposition. There's probably players on that pitch. Paul Robinson, I'd imagine, definitely one. I mean, Deja didn't play in the cup game, did he? So he got a bit of a rest. So that's the point when he came with something. But there are players there that would have played. George Frankham, certainly.
Yep.
Barry Fuller, Callum Kennedy.
Yeah.
Perhaps you don't want them having to have that many minutes in that short space of time. Especially, I've been blown away by the intensity of the 2 league games so far. I don't know if it was the same last year in League One. I can't believe it was that much difference. But really, teams in terms of pressing high up the pitch, the move, the pace of the balls, how quickly moving the ball, how quickly the opposition moves the ball, frenetic pace at the minute, and maybe that hasn't helped. I don't know. It certainly hasn't helped 2 players. I don't think. Well, one in particular, Paul Robinson, who might just be showing his age at this moment in time.
He might be the one that's sacrificed once Darius is fit again.
That's extreme.
Not,
I mean, loses his place.
Not talking about a blood sacrifice.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm talking about he might be removed. He might be on the substitutes bench.
Oh, right, okay.
When Darius returns to fitness, mainly for that reason. Don't get me wrong, Captain Leader Legend. I would never. That's very difficult to say. I would never want him at the squad or anything, but I don't think he's a first pick. I think he is back up. I think when Darius comes back, then Paul drops the bench.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely think Darius, Jonathan Meads as well. Huge absences. Yeah. You've got Liam Trotter. I suppose we haven't mentioned Liam Trotter. We talked about midfield balance earlier in the second half at Scunthorpe, where he played really well. I think Liam Trotter's influence there perhaps been a little bit understated.
Yeah, I've yet to see him play.
No, this is true.
Unfortunately, I wasn't at Scunthorpe because some of us have got to work for a living, and as a result, I shift work for a living. As a result, I didn't see the Scunthorpe game, but I did hear very good things about Trotter and Abdu linking together.
Yeah, I think
looking forward to seeing them play.
Kevin Boris said about Jimmy Abdu, he's a player that you don't normally notice him. He doesn't do anything outstanding, but does lots of little things very, very well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll say one thing I did notice against him at Shrewsbury was a couple of times he was in our box and was getting some good tackles in. I did notice that a couple of times. So I was impressed with him, even though there were some times when he just looked a bit half asleep. So it's difficult. He can switch it on when he needs to, I think, is what my impression of him.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, then, I guess we're talking about the midfield, George Frankham. Everyone has to talk about George Frankham.
Hashtag man bun.
Hashtag man bun if you wish to. But everyone wants to talk about George Frankham. Whenever we have a conversation, anyone on Twitter or anything, he's the name that always comes up constantly. He's the biggest figure of debate in this squad. What did you make of his performance against Shrewsbury?
I think he did well. He was I can't say a high spot because we haven't got a high spot in that game.
No, not really.
Really, apart from George Long.
Lyle.
And Lyle. All right. So 2 high spots, but not George Frankham. He was in there. He was in the mix. I think he did well. He's solid. He is that player that everybody seems to just get on his back because once or twice a game he will misplace a pass or overhit a corner. But ultimately he has one of the highest assist records in our team for a while. I think he's always good with set pieces, barring that last one against Shrewsbury, which we won't mention. I think he deserves to be in there. But again, he is replaceable. I'm not suggesting he's our one and only person. But
some are saying, and this just shows you you could argue, entrenched opinions about George Frankham. I've heard people say to me, he's been our best player so far this season across the 3 games, most consistent. And I've had other people say to me, picking out his faults in every single game.
Yeah.
Well, he can't do wrong for doing right, or whatever that phrase is.
Yeah, the other way around, but we like it.
I'm a teacher, what do I know?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, people love to pick on people. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of the last person who had this sort of...
Oh, we've had loads.
Although in the first year at the club, Tom Elliott got a lot of stick in the first 6 months.
In my memory, Sam Hatton was always one that got a lot of grief when he first joined. I love Sam Ricky Wellard was another one.
But he was well hard.
And then he, you know better than I do, but he was given a lot of stick to begin with.
Yeah, there's always running a cycle of, it's weird. I mean, Fellaini at Man United, he still does a job, but he's the one who gets the stick when things don't go right. They'll go out in the first season he was there. Moyes, oh no, we finished top 10 in the Premier League. Well, he's got to go, and it was Fellaini's fault.
There's always one.
Yes.
There is always one. Well, we don't want to talk too much more longer about the Shrewsbury game because it was so horrendously awful. Atmosphere as well, let's touch on this. It was quieter than a Saturday afternoon at Vicarage Road.
Ouch, that's harsh.
No, it's not. It's true.
It started well.
Yes.
And after 6 minutes, it died on its behind.
It wasn't even like there was... It just felt like there was no noise whatsoever. Like,
No,
you get that sort of anxious or anxiety coming from the crowd sometimes, and a bit of moan, and there's nothing. It was just dead quiet. At least it was in the main stand where I was, so maybe I'm not the best judge.
No, it was, and because obviously I walk around and do my... Well, I say I mind the Womble, I just walk around the pitch, I'll be honest.
Thanks for being so honest about that. It's not like we don't see it for ourselves every single week.
It's been 3 years, I might as well complain. But it was very flat. It felt like a pre-season game. I don't think all our supporters are back yet, which sounds weird.
No, that's another moan I have.
I know you're going to moan about the empty space in the John Green stand.
And the main stand.
Fair enough, I didn't really see it. But in the John Green stand, you get a lot of families, groups of season ticket holders that are together. Having seen it from term time Saturdays, shall we say, when parents clearly run out of ideas what to do with their kids, they bring them to Wimbledon. It's extra punishment. Big groups of people weren't back, and I think that those gaps led to a bit less atmosphere, a bit less noise, because it was just dead space between so many people.
But as I did say on Facebook Live, I think there's two parts to this, to be fair. I did say, oh, look, there's the first one, I think, of this show, to be fair. I should have told you at the start, by the way, to make sure you make this podcast interesting. But anyway.
Very interesting, but stupid.
I did have this moan about the empty spaces and saying, if you could not make the game, please let the club know so they can resell your tickets. I know there were people that actually wanted to come and were told that it was sold out, so they were short or they were unable to get their tickets. The counterpoint to that is I did get the email from the club about sending back your season ticket if you can't make the game, but that came before the Scunthorpe game for me personally. So maybe a little bit close to the time, the club maybe could just send out a second email. I don't know if they've had or done this in the past and people have complained about being barraged by emails. I don't know. I
wouldn't care. I think if people have got the club's best interest at heart, I'd have 10 emails if it meant the club got an extra 20 quid by selling their seat. I don't think the club do enough to publicise the return the ticket thing, in my opinion. I've never seen anything.
Fair enough.
I don't see anything in the programme about it.
Okay.
Big enough. I think the club needs to do a lot more, because that was, if that's a rough estimate, I'm thinking I wouldn't even like to guess. If we had 20 people in a block, there were 5 blocks, times 20 quid, you do the maths, you're the teacher. There's a lot of money into the coffers, and I think we are missing huge opportunity as a football club to note that. So if you are a season ticket holder who's listening, cannot make the game, tell the club so they can sell the ticket.
Yes, thank you very much. Well said. And we did have an attendance that was sub 4,000, which is disappointing for the opening league game of the season, I think, personally.
Big space behind the dugouts. Two kids basically having a game of football behind the dugouts for most of the match. I think I actually saw...
that was Edgy Carger and Toby Sibic.
Well, they are young man. But that was, that says a lot. And Shrewsbury only bought 300, which, I don't know, it's a long way to go. Wales. Well, they were in the Welsh Cup for many years. It's a very odd discussion to have, but it's very near there. But Tony being 300, their last season they were awful, and they just avoided relegation. This season, I think they're doing a lot better. And
it's not a new ground. That's a ground they've visited many times before, and our away end is horrendous. So, there we go. Yeah, Shrewsbury, for their part, I think they were very well organised. They put an amazing amount of effort in. They've kept 2 clean sheets in their first 2 league games, won both 1-0. So, I still look at their squad and think, over the course of the season, they might well struggle. But fair play to them for Saturday. Now, we've been talking for about 20 minutes now, actually. It's flown by.
Neither of us are asleep either. It's amazing.
It's amazing. I don't know how we've managed this. So just tidy up some loose ends from this game. We launched our GIF wrap on Twitter in place of 3-word reports. We'll still be doing the 3-word reports during the season. We're just going to rotate them with a few other things as well, in which we asked followers to wrap up the game with one GIF. We had some great replies. We thoroughly enjoyed them, actually. Unfortunately, where we are right now, we have precisely how much internet? 0.
-0, I think.
We have no contact with the outside world.
We're in negative numbers.
So we can't exactly recall who sent what, but there were some great ones. So what we're going to ask you to do is on Twitter, if you follow us, or if you don't follow us, make sure you do @9YRS podcast and search for #GIFWrap, and you will find our thread with all the replies. So please do that. Looking around League One on the weekend then, picking out some results to highlight, I think there was quite a few actually this weekend. We'll just pick one each though, if that's all right. I'm going to go for the Sunday game. Wigan 4, Bury 1, just because Wigan have started ominously 2 wins out 2. They scored 6 goals against Oldham. Admittedly, you'd expect them to beat them, but still, Bury, who have signed a lot of players to beat them, turning over 4-1. I think Wigan could be challenging for that automatic promotion spot the way they've started.
I did have Wigan as my predictions to be up there.
Yes, you did.
Yes, and we won't talk about Blackburn. I had went through the results myself, picked out a few. You can pick out Oxford, thumping Portsmouth, Peterborough, Bristol Rovers was always good, although Bristol Rovers are on the slide. But the result of the weekend for me was Rotherham putting 5 past Southend, who were many people's pick for promotion.
Mine.
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm pointing it out.
Thank you.
But yeah, that was huge. I think Rotherham showing good promise. I can't remember the chap's name who scored the hat-trick, but he's looking good.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, actually, because if last week on the opening weekend the big story was the amount of red cards in League One, I suppose the story this week was the 2 hat-tricks that were scored. Kiefer Moore was the guy for Rotherham, with the hat-trick, and Jack Marriott for Peterborough, who you also mentioned. God love Jack Marriott.
Really?
Well, he was signed from Luton, so...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still...
I'm confused. I thought it was a Wimbledon podcast.
Don't say that. Don't say that, because people will start writing in and saying there's too much Luton Watford wrestling stuff.
Admittedly, that was one mention, and that's his one mention for the podcast. So he's got that out of the way. Let's move on.
I have no desire to talk about Luton's weekend last weekend.
That was 2. He's now fired.
Damn it, Jack Marriott. Anyway, heroes and villains of the week. Let's start with our heroes. No, let's finish on the positive. Let's start with the villains. Who was your villain of the week?
Well, my villain, as reported in the press, was Cristiano Ronaldo. God love him. He was a substitute in the El Clasico Cup game they had. He came on as a sub, scored a goal, 2 yellow cards later, and he's off. Now, I don't know whether he wanted some sort of break. However, he's only just come back from holiday. But then he managed to push the ref in the back as well, just to compound it. 5-match ban, thank you very much. Really petulant, preening, posturing. I know. I like the guy. I think he's an excellent footballer. But
preening, posturing, nonsense, idiot man. I like him
because he's a good footballer. But his personality is bloody awful. So yeah, villain for me.
Okay, fair enough. Mine is the Charlton Athletic kit man.
Oh God, let it go.
Charlton playing red, Peterborough playing blue. But they weren't. That's nothing to do with what I'm talking about, because Plymouth playing green and Charlton were away at Plymouth. So why Charlton turned out in some bizarre dark purple, mauve, blue thing that was actually harder to differentiate with Plymouth green, I don't know. It could only have been for commercial reasons. So Charlton, no.
Yeah, well, Charlton made the list, but I will point out somebody did. I did hear
not officially made the list. I should point out
rumblings in the background that some EFL and the Premier League are having a say in the colours.
I read this about Huddersfield, but I don't believe it.
Yeah. Don't know. That's not just Huddersfield. I've heard some other things as well. But we shall see.
We shall see. We shall see. Your hero of the week?
My hero, Craig Pawson.
Who?
Well, he's going to go, who?
And
Steve
Howard.
He is the man who took control of the Chelsea versus Burnley game on Saturday.
How's he he's a hero,
He's
sorry.
a hero, you fool. He was a hero for standing up to... I mean, first game of the season, Stamford Bridge, it's meant to be a 5 or 6-0 defeat to Burnley, isn't it? But he's gone in and made... Every decision was correct. I think he did... I mean, Cesc Fabregas showed himself up to be the Cristiano Ronaldo that he is. He thought, how can you send me off? How can he send you off? It's because you committed one of the worst fouls I've seen that day, which because there were quite a few. But Fabregas, yes, dealing with him was very difficult to do, especially with the baying home crowd. I think it was 3-1 at that point. And it pretty much ended the game, even though they got a second. But for standing up to all that lot, Pawson for me is my hero of the week.
Fair enough. I've gone for a Wimbledon player like I did last week, so my hero of the week this week is just Lyle Taylor, because we're struggling otherwise. It should be George Long, who really won both Twitter Man and Match polls for us, but I'm going to say Lyle just because when he comes on, it's a different ball game, I think. And you see
basketball.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have handled it, really, should he?
No, absolutely not.
But anyway, yes, he comes on, and you just see how much he cares, how much passion he has when he comes on, and you just think everything suddenly seems to rise when he's on the pitch in terms of his application, his effort, and the way he gets everyone motivated and gets the crowd a little bit more behind us, which was difficult on Saturday. So Lyle, rubbish hair, good footballer.
You're listening to These Fine Gentlemen and their new song, One Horse Town. Available now on iTunes and Spotify.
That These Fine Gentlemen advert still features the voice of one Mr. Christopher Draper.
Hello.
You sound ridiculous in that advert.
That's the last time I do an advert for him, then.
Well, I don't need you to do another advert for me. It's done. And it wasn't for me, it was for These Fine Gentlemen, actually. So.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I hope they like it. So let me know at ZDrake1. If not, ZDrake01, sorry. If not, I'll not do it again. All right?
They've already recorded their own, so, you know.
Yeah, I thought
give it a couple of
it's got them, I said, thanks.
Yeah. Give it a couple of shows, you're out. Anyway, 17th of August is, of course, the 15-year anniversary of Sandhurst Town away. Our very first game as AFC Wimbledon, competitive game as AFC Wimbledon. So we thought we'd revisit it, talk about some of our memories from it. We're probably going to speak to a few other people, but, you know, the lack of Wi-Fi and whatever just means it's you and I.
If anybody is hearing this recording, please tell the police. We don't know where we are.
Yes, please send help.
We'll send the balloon up. Track the Wi-Fi, but you can't.
You can't. There's nothing. There's no trail whatsoever.
Nothing.
No.
Breadcrumbs. We'll do the Hansel and Gretel thing.
There we go. Sandhurst Town was in the middle of nowhere, much like we are now.
Oh, segue!
There we go. And it wasn't in the middle of nowhere, but it was fair. It was a fair walk from the station on that day.
And I do remember there only being one pub, and we had to wake the landlord up. That was funny.
That's because you got there at 8 in the morning.
10?
Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't get there quite that early.
No, we're not. Yeah, there was a group of us went up there at 10 o'clock, and we saw the pub. I think he must have heard us outside, and he sort of leaned out of his window. I said, "Are you going to the match?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Give me 5 minutes, I'll come down and open up for you." Nice. Winning.
It's probably his biggest takings ever that day.
Quite possibly. I think he now lives in Monaco, which is nice.
How do you know that?
I like to keep in touch with people from my past.
That's not creepy in any way, shape or form.
Slightly stalkerish.
Just a tad.
Moving on.
And I'm stuck in a cottage in the middle of nowhere with you right now. I am very concerned for my well-being.
Yeah, I've just cut the brake lines.
Anyway.
Moving
on swiftly. Yes, so we got the train to wherever it was, Sandhurst, I'd imagine.
Well, somewhere
in that region.
Yeah. Didn't get shot by the army. Always helpful.
And a little bit of a step from the station through a very nice village. But we're not here to talk about our journey on that day, really, are we? Talk about the day and what it meant. And what would you say was your standout memory? If you pick one moment from that day on the pitch during the game.
Okay, yes, well, the winner and everybody going mad and breaking the barrier around. I didn't do it, but the barrier behind the goal where we were stood.
Yes, for the second goal.
Went over.
Yep.
And, it was just amazing. It really did feel like old Wimbledon before, because it was the first proper game after all the protests, after all the kerfuffle. I was still working for Wimbledon at the time. And I just thought, just leave me here. I don't care about that other lot. I'll pick up my paycheck, get a new job, which I eventually did. Not too long afterwards. But that was the moment I thought, yeah, I could get into this. Beforehand, there was that trepidation. You were going. I went to all the friendlies, barring the one we won, of course.
Of course.
And I still didn't feel quite. It didn't feel the same.
The friendlies were very. Aside from the Sutton game and arguably the Bromley one where we scored our first goal. They were very surreal experiences, especially the further we got into them, where crowds, to be honest, were getting smaller and smaller. It wasn't any reflection on how interested people. It was just the nature of pre-season, I guess.
It was travelling.
There
wasn't much to it.
Yeah,
we still didn't really know all the players because they were literally. It was like a deck of cards every week. There'd be 10 new different people. It'd be weird. But, we thoroughly enjoyed it. I got chased by the security guards at the Big Brother house once.
Oh, yes.
Boreham Wood.
How can I forget that?
Boreham Wood away. It wasn't just me. That was the year that Jade Goody was in there. That'll give you some sort of time reference for all you Big Brother fans. But, yeah, it was very muted to start with. When Trigger scored, though, that's sort of when it started to steamroller.
Well, there was the Sutton game, which was this huge, great event that we've talked about before, obviously, many times. We'll never forget that evening, what that meant and what that felt like. There was the trigger moment where we scored the first goal at Bromley, and that ground seemed to follow us like a bad smell for a number of years after that.
Yeah. Bad smell being the operative words.
Yes. But then, as I say, I'm thinking Windsor and Eton we had, and played 5-0 at Walton and Hersham, and Leatherhead, and places like this. And, okay, we had the Kingstonian friendly, I guess, where perhaps that's where we got quite a big attendance that day, because that was going to be our stadium, so that makes sense. Yeah. And we scored that day as well, so that was nice. I do remember a story of one person that didn't realise, well, they stayed in the bar too long, so they thought when we scored it was an equaliser, so they only found out the next day that we'd actually lost the game.
Yeah.
Never mind. But it was still, we weren't in our kit or anything like that. We still had the Football Manager kit and stuff like that. So when we got to Sandhurst, I think seeing the players walk out onto the pitch in the yellow and blue.
Out of what pretty much looked like public toilets in a vast field.
Well, that's because they were.
Yeah,
essentially. But seeing them in the yellow and blue for the first time, I think, was a great moment. And you just thought, wow, this is Wimbledon now.
I think it was more the case that it was happening.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
There was still the guys who were in charge and had done everything from day one literally had like 6 weeks to do all of this, maybe a little bit longer. I might be underselling it, but to get everything in place from 27th of May, 14th of August, 27th, 28th, it was 28th, sorry, to the 14th of August. It was just full on doing everything. And in that time period, I mean, I can't even book a holiday in that time period. They managed to sort out a football club and get us playing in a league, albeit step 9, wasn't it?
It's technically step 8 at the time.
That was 8
because the restructuring came, I think, the season after we won it. So we basically got promoted out of the CCL to the same level because of the reorganisation.
Because we always do things the hard way,
let's be honest.
But it was, you had to be realistic. We were playing people who were, it was the old FA Cup ramblings, isn't it? The bank managers and the...
Well, it's even...
construction workers.
It's mad the conversations, people I've met since then that were playing us at Ryan Premier level or Conference South level, or even players that played for us at those levels, that you're thinking that was at a fairly high level, but at CCL level, it was madness. And
however, I did notice for all you sort of long-time Wimbledon fans, and then even if you're not, look into the history books, Hartley-Wintney won the Combined Counties League last year.
They did, for the second year in a row.
Winning, they are now in the league above, and they are unbeaten. They are in a winning streak.
There you go.
So, just something I noticed.
But there are a number of clubs, I know we got off the point of Sandhurst a little bit, but there are a number of clubs, Merstham I think are the biggest examples of it, but clubs that, and Walton Casuals of course, who are probably the first ones, who took what they earned from us, let's be honest with you, they made a good amount of money out of it.
A few quid, cheese rolls and all that.
And everything like that. And they made the best use of it. And they improved their club to get them up the pyramid and start progressing. And you think just fair play to those types of clubs. There were others that perhaps weren't as savvy.
Comment on that,
or particularly nice, or a little bit stuck in there.
With Dean 2000, maybe?
Well, they went bust, didn't they? So,
exactly.
But I'm also thinking of the likes of maybe Chesington Hooks and people like that. They've just gone... Bless them, Rains Park Vale, who have had major problems. But it's good to see the clubs like you say, Mersham's, Hartley-Whitney's, and that's progressing, getting to where they need to be. And especially for Hartley-Whitney, who fell short of the ground grading last year. That's why they didn't go up the previous season. But anyway, Sandhurst Town, as we've mentioned, another team that actually struggled since we played them. They've gone down a level, and I'm not sure where they are now, to be honest with you. But I thought it was a strange decision to send us to Sandhurst, if I'm being honest.
Send us to Sandhurst, what, for the first game?
For the first game. I know the people doing the fixtures probably symbolically looked at Bottom Meadow and thought, that's got to be the one.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought, if you are knowledgeable...
What's your logic on that one?
If you're knowledgeable about the situation we were in, the first game we were going to have was going to attract a huge number of followers.
Yeah.
And Sandhurst Town, perhaps when you look at the grounds and stuff in the league at the time, were not the ones best suited. I think there are possibly others that would have been in better positions to handle. Not that I'm saying Sandhurst did an amazing job. They were fantastic. There was no issues whatsoever. It just struck me as strange.
I don't think that was anything. I don't think there was anything
sinister or anything like that.
I think that was planned.
No.
I think that was just they're just another team in the pot. But I don't think we were ever treated in that regard as far as fixture lists, etc. Apart from having to divvy up when Kingstonian were playing. I don't think we were treated any differently.
Of course,
I think that was just a random.
Maybe I'm not thinking with Kingstonian possibly having a home game. I don't know. So.
I think that was probably more the case.
That's a good point.
I like your thinking. Very symbolic. We're starting at the bottom, but I think that was more just fixture calculators and things like that.
And the other memory, of course, aside from the yellow and blue, which stuck with me, as you mentioned, was scoring the goals and all going mad behind the goal and things like that. But it was also at full time, about 5 o'clock. Because there was a lot of injury time. If you remember, Tony Redding's had to go to hospital with an injury. Yes. And that led to...
he fell in a pothole, I think.
Probably, yeah. Or there was, I don't know...
tripped on a hay bale.
Steel reinforced bamboo by the side of the pitch. But there's my wrestling joke for this week.
Oh, for God's sake. That's one.
And that'll be the only one. Well, there might be some Alexa Bliss references later.
No, there won't.
But it was the amount of text messages I got from fans of other teams that were talking to me about, ironically... And because I got so many messages, I remember this very, very clearly. Ironically, that day, the franchise, still Wimbledon at the time, despite having Go MK and Blazon on their shirts, they'd actually played Watford of all teams that day and lost at Vicarage Road in front of about 12 people. And I'm not just talking about away fans.
We know.
And they're all saying, you must be gutted another defeat, because I think they'd had a bad start to the season and lost a couple of times. And I was just like... Yeah. What do you want about? We've just won our first game. I was like, how do you not know this? But I think that stuck with me to think, well, no, actually, that really isn't. I really don't care what that other lot have done.
No.
I think the only time I remember being really at a game wondering what they'd done, was possibly the first time they actually played in Milton Keynes, when they played the hockey stadium for the first time. We were away at Bedfont that day.
Yes. Yeah,
we won 6-1, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
And there was news. I think Dean Holsworth scored for the other lot that day. I know. All these memories come flooding back when you talk about Sandhurst. But I think those messages were just reinforcing the point to say there's a break. That's it. It's done. Whatever they're doing, don't care.
That for me, Sandhurst for me was the culmination of, obviously, culmination of pre-season, but culmination of everything that everybody at the club had worked for up to that point. Mm-hmm. I was just there offering support. Paid my money to the club, wanted to see them play.
£5
5 whole English pounds, I hasten to add, and we had a ticket and everything.
We did have a ticket,
and we had to cross a very weird bridge type thing from the local athletics club.
Yes, we did.
Across a stream.
Yes.
It was a tree-lined field, and there were hay bales stacked around it, so you could stand on them. Which health and safety gone mad. There were ice cream trucks in the far corner.
I was about to mention this because I've got to be honest. Large parts of the second half were ridiculously boring.
Oh yeah.
So I do remember just thinking, just get an ice cream. Just stand and have a chat.
I had a good spot behind the goal for the second half. I was happy. But there were ice creams at Portaloos, marvellous.
Yeah, well, that was a staple of CCL life.
Absolutely. But it just, the whole atmosphere was very much village fete. If you imagine what a village fete looked like, but with a football pitch in the middle of it, and quite a monumental game in the grand scheme of things. Rubbish football, terrible standard, but we won it.
Just to reiterate the point, or reinforce that point about the rubbish, the standard of it and stuff like that, the goalposts were square,
awful.
Which is how we conceded the goal, because if it had been round goalposts, it would have bounced out and away.
That's a good point. So they were actually schoolyard goalposts, basically.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't change it for the world now.
Oh, no. Wouldn't change it. I can't believe it's only been 15 years, to be honest with you. We're sitting here moaning about losing a League One game to Shrewsbury.
That is a very good point and puts it all in perspective. Every defeat, you still have to say, and a lot of people moan at me and saying this, at least we've got a football club, and they say, oh, you can't say things like that. No, I get annoyed when we lose. I have a go at the people that are responsible for it or not responsible for it. But you still have to think, where would we be without it?
Yeah. It's a sense of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a similar vein, I was reading about Brighton today and talking about their journey, because obviously now in the Premier League and what all they've been through and stuff like that. Yeah. And as somebody said, are you worried about playing Manchester? This was, obviously we know this was before the weekend, but in the article I was reading, they were talking about, you worried about Manchester City game and stuff like that, and they're just like, no.
We don't care. We're worried about going out of business. I'm going to Brighton at the it wasn't the Goldston, it was the Athletics Track.
Yeah, the Whitby Stadium.
Fearing for our lives, because you were stuck in a scaffolding construct and it was windy, and it was in the bottom of a valley, and you don't need to be a geologist to work out what was happening to us. We were doing the Mexican wave without moving.
A geologist? Were you studying rocks at the time?
All right, whatever.
Meteorologist or something like that?
Meteorologist, maybe?
Possibly.
I
don't know.
Well, we're saying Geologist Valley.
Just doing a V shape through your hands to really illustrate to the listeners.
Starts with a V.
If only
if only this was a
audio book.
No, you know what I mean. You were sitting there thinking, as long as I live through this, I don't care what the score is. I can't remember what the score was now. I think I was more worried about it.
We lost 2-1.
Did we really?
Yeah. We were talking about this bizarrely the other day. I don't know if it was on the podcast last week. We were talking to Stu about this.
Okay.
Bobby Zamora scored. I'm not sure if he scored both. He's definitely scored one. Mark Williams scored for us first. We went 1-0 up.
No, I remember that. And we did go 1-0 up. And that's pretty much when we started thinking, I hope my life insurance is paid up. Because as soon as we stood up, it was like, everybody sit down.
So maybe what memories you remember. That was also the first game after the Football League had originally voted 8-0 to say no to the Milton Keynes move.
Was it really?
So we were all quite happy about that. Yeah. We were playing the first time in that yellow shirt.
The yellow shirt, lovely.
The Maxi Muscle yellow shirt.
The most ironic shirt when I was wearing it.
Of course. Not that you were wearing it, of course, because there was a boycott.
I worked for the club. I got it for free.
Let's not put that thread now. So we're here to talk about Sandhurst.
No, it would have come to pieces. Actually, that kit was made by Puma, so be careful what you wish for.
What was very irritating about that whole thing was that was actually, to that time, one of the nicest kits we ever had.
It was lovely.
It was a very, very nice kit.
And guess who designed it?
Puma.
Me.
You did not design that kit.
We had say in it, yeah.
Yeah, all right. You had say in it.
It's
different to saying I designed it. There were you.
I picked the one they gave me.
At your drawing board.
I picked the one they gave me. Right, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. But of course we did have Puma again now, don't we?
We do. We're back to Puma. That's nice. Do like a Puma kit.
Yes, we do. Sandhurst then, as we've got really off track. Well off track. Anyone listening to this week is thinking, what? I turned into listeners to Sandhurst and we've ended up talking about Puma kits at the Whitby Stadium.
We are that far off piste we need a James Bond style parachute.
Yeah, we are struggling, listeners, to be honest with you. But final words on Sandhurst, what I will say is I do remember obviously the goals. Kevin Cooper scored the first goal. Keith Ward,
yeah, I know,
with a bullet header. A bullet header. Yes. And what's always funny is when you watch the DVD back and everything, and at the time, in the moment, like you say, you're all going mad, and it's a great moment, and a rush of adrenaline and stuff like that, and then when you listen to it back, it sounds so pathetic.
It sounds weak because it is just a field. It's got nothing.
It's a field of people going, yeah.
There were some sparrowhawks in the back, mildly disturbed by the noise that we were making, and somebody in the athletics track just thought, "What's that?" But other than that, a fantastic day. I think there were parties long into the night that night, and then we all came crashing back down to earth with Chipstead a few days later when we lost 2-1, but never mind. Yeah, talk about after the Lord Mayor's show. But
absolutely.
That first game, monumental, wouldn't change it for the world.
No, and you mentioned there about the surroundings and what have you and things like that, but one of the best pieces of advice I was ever told as a young person was that it's not where you are.
All those years ago.
Well, I'm only 24. So this was actually only last week. It's not where you are, which actually this situation we're currently in, this might not ring true, but the saying was, it's not where you are, it's the people you're with. And I think on that day, that would have been the mantra for Sandhurst Town away. Should we move on now?
Okay. Well, I thought that was a nice break.
That was quite a nice break, wasn't it?
I thought it was a very good ending.
This is where I should put the music in.
I think you should.
I'll do that now.
Okay.
All right,
professional.
You're now going to play Abdul or You because Stu's not here to play it. Now, he's not been too bad at this so far.
Okay.
He's got 1 or 2 correct. He has to rely on the anagram clue 1 week. Okay. Last week was Mark Kennedy, which was tricky.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play much more than a season for him.
No. And even then it wasn't very much during the season.
No, God love him. But anyway, this week, Jimmy has gone to meet someone who is a lot more familiar to Wimbledon fans. He's travelled to Dorking to meet this particular ex-player of ours. That's your first clue.
He's gone to Dorking?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, any ex-player?
Any ex-Wimbledon FC or AFC Wimbledon player.
Okay. Dorking. Who's at Dorking?
Well, lots of people.
Funny guy? Now go on, next.
Okay, next clue. That's fine. He's an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Who scored 30 goals for us in 168 games.
Bloody hell, you asked me to be a stat man.
Well, no, but attacking midfielder.
Dorking, is he still playing?
Yes.
39. Go on next.
Well, who do you think of?
No, I was going to say Jack Minson, but he's got a load more.
Okay. Well, if you can, I'm not going to tell you until the third clue anyway.
Okay, go on then.
So for the time being, we're on Jack Minson.
Jack Minson.
Okay, we're not on Jack Minson. He's not with us in this cottage.
No, but if he was, no one would know.
Okay, final clue then. As I said, he is an attacking midfielder. He scored his first goals for us in the conference in a 4-0 win over Salisbury City.
You're asking me to have a memory, and I'm not very good at that. No, I'm not going to get it.
It's not Jack Minson because he didn't play for us until the Football League.
He's not a midfielder either. So.
No, he's not.
Oh, that's also true.
So an attacking midfielder that played for us in the conference.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm not going to start guessing.
Okay, here's your anagram.
Rubbish. I am rubbish.
Here's your anagram question then.
Listen.
His name is an anagram of Rum Lookie. Or Rum Lukey, if you prefer. There we go. He got it. Well done.
Bloody hell. Should have got that before.
You should have got that before.
Dorking.
I'm now going back. I'm thinking conference. He joined us in the conference. Scored against Salisbury City. I'm praying he didn't score before then, but he didn't.
Okay.
Just because
Thanks for clarifying.
I had to think of that clue up very quickly. But no, it was Salisbury City, right.
100% professional podcast.
Absolutely. Well done, Chris. I'm very impressed you managed to get Luke Moore.
On the anagram.
On the anagram clue, but it still kind of counts. Mm-hmm. When I first was told we signed Luke Moore, I thought, wow, that's a great sign, not realising it was not the one that was in the Premier League with West Brom at the time. It was...
Well, there was no chance of that, was there?
He might have been. He might have been a lot older. I didn't know how old the other Luke Moore was. But anyway, moving on very, very quickly. We're not doing too bad for time, though, which is good. Okay, so this year on the podcast with our mini guests, they have been answering some quick-fire questions, either-or questions, in which they have to pick the first one that comes to their mind.
Right.
So I'm going to play that game with you this week, Chris.
Fabulous.
As you are technically a guest on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you either or choice. It's just the first answer that comes to mind. It has to be very, very quick. Instantaneous, okay. Yes, that's a good word. All right, so let's begin with David Tennant or Jodie Whittaker.
David Tennant.
Oh, you're so sexist, Chris. Get over it. There's a female doctor.
I will never accept it.
I can't believe it. Right, Amy Pond or Martha Jones?
Amy Pond.
So racist, Chris. I can't believe you've picked the... honestly, terrible.
You said the first thing that came into my head.
Monica or Rachel?
Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Boo. Wax or gel?
Gel.
Bolton or Morecambe?
I'm going to fall down on this question.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Bolton.
Reg Davis or Graham Thorley?
Oh, God, is that Shoot or Berry? I'm not sure. Of the two of them, I'd still pick Reg. God, love him.
Fair enough. Victoria Sponge or chocolate roulade?
Victoria Sponge. It can be eaten as a dessert.
We'll explain that one shortly. Alexa Bliss or Paige?
Alexa Bliss.
And finally, when you make a cup of tea, do you put the milk in first or do you put the bag in first?
Sweeteners.
That's not either or, is it?
Bag.
Thank you very much. Good. Right. Victoria Sponge. Do you want to explain to the listeners what this was all about? Now, you were charged with buying desserts.
Here we go.
Last night, weren't you, on this holiday?
I did.
And what did you purchase?
I was asked to purchase 2 desserts for our evening meal, of which I picked one and my daughter picked the other one. My daughter picked a cream... what's it called? Fresh cream infused Victoria Sponge dessert, and I've not heard the end of it.
But Victoria Sponge isn't really an after dinner dessert, is it?
The one with I don't even know what you call the filling on a normal Victoria Sponge.
Well, I'm guessing it's just cream, like it.
No, it's not.
Oh, I don't know.
No, there is a different one.
Okay.
That it can be used as a afternoon tea type thing, and there is the cream. I keep wanting to say cream cheese. That's not what I want to say. Fresh cream filling can be eaten as a dessert.
I'm still not convinced we should have had a Victoria Sponge for dessert, but yeah.
Well, listeners, there's your new quiz for the podcast Twitter feed. Is Victoria Sponge a dessert or not?
Yes, just simply hashtag Victoria yes or hashtag Victoria no.
God, we know how to live on this podcast.
Or alternatively, hashtag Victoria Beckham or hashtag Victoria don't care.
That's a rubbish one. Don't do that. Let's go with the sponge. Come on.
Let's go with the sponge.
That's
our new tagline for the podcast.
Go with the sponge.
You're listening to the 9 Years podcast. Go with the sponge.
Go with the sponge.
Somebody who will be going with the sponge this weekend is our physio up to Fleetwood.
God, that's Segway 3.
I know. I'm so good at these. We're going to Fleetwood Town. I'm not, because I've been there before. There's a long way to go, and we've done enough travelling this week. But it is a very, very difficult game for us, considering the week we've just had. They have won 2 from 2 this season without conceding. Now, there's 2 ways you look at this. One is they haven't conceded yet. We're not looking particularly good scoring at the moment with 1 goal in 752 minutes, so it might be a bit of a problem. The alternative way of looking at it is teams rarely go 3 games into the new season without conceding. Very rarely. I think Chelsea once went about 28 games under Mourinho without conceding a goal, but
we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. They have Conor McElhaney, who scored twice. I picked him out last week, scored twice against Rotherham on the opening day of the season, and then last week I believe it was Devante Cole on Saturday who got the 1-0 at Northampton. Their 1-0 win at Northampton.
Cobblers.
No, really, it's true.
Thanks.
So they have attacking options and they've signed well. I've mentioned them that I think they're going to be up there again into the playoff places, and Uwe Ros is doing a stunning job. I think they are looking very good bets to repeat their success of last season. Are we in trouble on Saturday?
That depends, because I think what Ross has done is tightened them up at the back. He's made them a very hard team to break down and score goals against. But goal scoring is, they've scored a couple of goals before they started, but they've not really hammered teams from statistics I've looked at. It's been fairly even balanced. Mm-hmm. Again, with George Long in goal, he's worth a sort of, what's the best way of putting it? I mean, against Shrewsbury, we could have shipped 3, 4, 5 goals, and that's not an understatement. He's worth at least 3, 4 or 5 very, very good League One saves, if not higher. So if we keep them to fewer chances, he will be at the back, stopping them in. I just think 0-0. I think it's got 0-0 on it.
It was 0-0 there last season, and we have had... off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly the amount of times we've been up there, but I do remember we drew with them in the conference. We drew with them in the first league meeting we had. I think it was Neil Ardley's or one of Neil Ardley's first games with us.
2-2?
No. It was 2-2 last season at home, yes, and 0-0 away.
Yeah.
So we do have a number of draws with them. That does seem to be the most likely result, or most common result between the two of us. I would take it quite happily now.
Easily.
We're in the middle of nowhere. We've got no team news going into it, really. I imagine we've heard Kwesi Appiah, rumours of a groin injury. I'm not sure. I hope Lyle Taylor gets a start.
I think Lyle's got to go in from the start.
And Liam Trotter, how far away is he, do we think? I mean, he wasn't far away from playing against Shrewsbury, so maybe he does come back in alongside, I imagine, Jimmy Abdou and George Frankham again. I think Dean Parrott's the one that's probably going to miss out.
Yeah, Liam, I believe his knee injury didn't heal quite in time for Shrewsbury, but it looks like. But he had a sort of 80-20 chance of getting in, so hopefully he'll be all right.
Otherwise, there's no real changes, I can't think. It's only Lyle and Trotter that would come into the starting lineup, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think stick Lyle and Trotter in. Definitely start with Lyle, because there was something definitely missing in that first half of Shrewsbury, more than I originally thought. I would definitely start with Lyle. I think that would be my first change.
But you stick with the 4-3-3? Or do you, no, that's not the question I want to ask, really. You're expecting Neil to stick with the 4-3-3?
I'm expecting him to stick with it and try and get it to work, because against Brentford there were sides of it, shades of it working. I think if we'd have been playing perhaps a lesser team on Tuesday, it might have worked well and we might have actually got a result. I think Brentford did well because they're the better team, basically, and beat us at their own game. Yes,
and the only thing I would add to that in regards to Fleetwood is I'd be interested, we've mentioned Devante Cole and Colin McElhaney. I'd also be interested to see what's happening with Geordie Hawula, who I've mentioned a few times on this podcast already. He was at Bradford last season, top scorer for them last season. He's now on loan at Fleetwood this year. So if he is fit and involved, I'll have to double check, then he is a man certainly to watch. But something else to watch on Saturday will be our Twitter and Instagram page for updates from the game at 9YRS Podcast, if you don't already. We hope there will be Facebook Live videos as well to keep you posted pre-match, post-match and during half-time. No guarantee this week. Obviously, Fleetwood away days, network coverage. You never know.
If you think it's bad in Luxborough, in the Sussex Downs, in Exmoor Forest.
Close.
Then Fleetwood.
At least Fleetwood has the best fish and chips I've ever had in an away game.
Well, they don't call them the Cod Army for nothing.
No, they don't. No. So if you are going to Fleetwood this weekend, I should say, and you have not been to the fish and chip shop, literally next door to the away end, I'm just going to recommend you go, because it is beautiful. Beautiful fish. What other game are you looking out for on Saturday?
The only one that really stands out to me is because it's so fledgling the league at the minute, but Bradford v Blackburn. Bradford with a good start.
Blackburn with a
Blackburn with a terrible start.
Yeah.
And it's obviously Yorkshire, Lancashire, the old cricket rivalry, etc.
The old Red Rose, White Rose.
Red Rose, White Rose. So, big game for them. I think Blackburn are going to need to turn up and get a result, because I think 3 defeats on the bounce is not a good way to start your season for anyone. Like what happened to us not that long ago.
Happened last season, in fact.
Exactly.
I know. I was sitting there on Saturday thinking, when was the last time we didn't win either of our first 2 games? And I thought, last season.
Last year.
When we didn't win any of our first 5 in the league. But never mind. Looking at the fixture list for the weekend, I think I am going to pick out... I am very interested to see how Bristol Rovers bounce back from their dodgy start. Because I didn't think Bristol Rovers would be any great shakes this season. I said they'd be mid-table. But a number of the critics disagreed with me, had them going for the playoffs. They've not started well, and now they're going away to Bury, who are the biggest question marks of this division, I think, this season, considering the amount of money they've spent. But their poor record last season, and the fact they've not started great either. So that's good. An intriguing game for my good self. I think that brings us to an end, really. Just got a few bits and pieces to tidy up, if I may.
No, we've done the washing up.
We did do, actually. Yeah.
We have done the washing up.
We have done the washing up, we're good like that.
Okay.
Keep an eye out. I've mentioned our social media. Do we actually get round to the Facebook things and saying if you don't like us on Facebook already for the updates from Fleetwood, go to facebook.com/9YRS podcast. Therefore, if we do go live, you get notified when we do.
I don't think we did do that. You better do that.
I think I've just done that.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And also check out our social media, Facebook and Twitter, to get the links to our Spotify playlist this week. A guest selector who is yet to be revealed. You shall find out. It's not going to be you.
No.
That would be rubbish.
Oh, thanks.
James Shea, Jake Rees, Chris Draper.
Hey, listen. You want professionalism? Find someone else.
Exactly. There we go. So check out our social media for links to our Spotify playlist, and also check out the website 9yrspodcast.org and read this week's, I'm going to call it not the Monday essay, I'm going to call it the miracle essay this week that I somehow managed to get online, bearing in mind we have no Wi-Fi or no phone network.
I don't know if we've mentioned that.
Well, I don't think we have mentioned
the course
that.
of this podcast.
No. I also like Luton and Wrestling, if we've never mentioned that, and Chris fell over at Bolton, if we've not mentioned
and
that
Morecambe.
one. And Morecambe as well. How can we forget Morecambe? Anyway, I've somehow managed to call together the article and get it online as I discussed the loan system and the EFL Trophy. 2 subjects that I've attempted to tie up in a nice little package, but have probably failed. Right, off we go then. Thank you for listening, and please remember to like us and subscribe to us if you're listening on either iTunes or YouTube. And if you're listening through our website, please remember you can leave a comment underneath the article. Tell us what you think. But that is indeed it for this week. Thank you for joining me, Chris. And join us next week when we'll be discussing the FA's Respect campaign with Cristiano Ronaldo and Paolo Di Canio. Alexa Bliss back first, milk last, and we'll speak to you again next week.
Black vinyl got me in a haze. I'm drifting back into those glory days. They'll sing about girls and cars, sneaking into bars, drunk fist fights and battle scars. Lord, how I wish those days were mine. And they'll sing about smoking in the glory days, chasing the ones they got away. Lord, I could spend this whole damn night dreaming about the sweeter times. Lord, you got your high school sweetheart. They're breaking all the rules. They're fogging up their windows and making love without a clue. Or they just packed their bags. They all fell right into line. I know they say that.
Anybody go on next?
Well, who do you think of?
No, I was going to say Jack Minson, but he's got a load more.
Okay.
And he's not. Why is Jack Minson?
Well, if you can, I'm not going to tell you until the third clue anyway.
Okay, go on then.
So for the time being, we're on Jack
We're on
Minson.
Jack Minson.
Okay, we're not
Way
on Jack
off.
Minson. He's not with us in this cottage.
No. But if he was, no one would know.
No one would know,
No.
unfortunately.
Apart from the local police. So the next clue. Come on, it's dead space here. Come on.
I haven't got a third clue, so I fucked up my prep.
Oh!
I have to
And
think
that's
of
for
one.
the outtakes.
I have to think of one very, very quickly. Hold on, shush. Okay, final clue then.